top-class drivers, including Spencer Pumpelly. And in fact, last time I saw Kevin was at the Sonoma Speed Fest, and he was racing there again in his Rolex winning car. So that was good to see. And of course, as always, he was sharing his good wine with us. And I've got him on tonight because I want to talk racing, and he's just as fed up as all of us, but he's found some inventive ways to keep going, and more importantly, virtual wine tasting. That's what's coming. Kevin, are you there?
I'm right here, guys. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you, guys.
How's
Thanks for having
life
me
in
on.
California?
You
How's it
bet.
on?
You know, today was a beautiful day out here. I actually got a chance to, we live in a little waterfront development, so I got out and did a little water skiing this morning, get some exercise.
Nice.
But mostly
Nice.
always a Sunday is a big work day for us because we've been trying, like you said, trying to make sure not only survive and stay relevant, but you know, I think it's funny. It's kind of funny because you know, jumping over to the wine business hardcore here a few years ago and just getting everything finished off, getting our project ready to start building. But then the launch of the new racing series, I think 27 years of motorsports, you know, is good training to try to be able to run the team over here on the wine side. And we're really having to, you know, find ways to, like I said, reinvent ourselves. But also, you know, I'm not a big one for crying on the couch. And, you know, I laughingly say in the wine world, there could be a lot of blah, blah, blah. But I lived by a stopwatch for all those years. So we kind of got to be on point. And, you know, I tell the team every day, I said, guys, if we try hard, we can come out of this thing and gain some market share. And that's our goal. You know, digital superiority, because that's digital's where it's at right now.
Interesting. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, well, why don't we talk about, I mean, you've got an amazing race history, first of all. I mean, your resume in racing is incredible, with all the way back from Daytona, the Rolex 24, multiple wins there, 4 wins. I mean, you've got an incredible history, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you. Most amount of humility and all that. We were in the moment. Actually, lately, the last couple of years, going and doing some of the wonderful events we've been able to participate in and pushing the winery forward. I kind of feel like we're on a Rolling Stones retro tour. I think in the midst of it, we didn't really realize what we were doing, but you know, we finally came out swinging after 10 years of kind of learning the ropes. You know, in 2002 was the big breakout year. You know, I was our lead, and we came down there with a small independent team to Daytona. We knew what to do. We had our butt whooped for 7 straight years, and but it was always because of, you know, putting the team together with finances, and I think we knew what to do. That year was great. Had a great lineup. We won the race, and then a few weeks later, got accepted to that little race. I used to open the envelope, and it would say, "We're ACO." You know, the top says, "We regret to inform you." It's like, ah, shit, I got denied Le Mans again. This time, I opened it up, and the first word was "congratulations," and I was like, "Oh my god, we got accepted to Le Mans." And my very practical wife says, "That's great, honey. How are we going to pay for it?" And we literally did not even have the money to go. But I had so many cool friends in the you know, Porsche Club at the time, and they're like, "You are going no matter what. We will. How much does a wing cost?" And so before crowdfunding, we got ourselves over there and got to Le Mans that year. And what an amazing opportunity, although everything was so hard because we didn't speak the language, we didn't have any money, we stayed in the worst hotel, smelled like stinky cheese all the time. And then when the checkered flag dropped, we won the race, and it was just a shocker to everybody. And so that was, you know, a great start for us, and then I continued on.
Well, I got to ask you, what do you think about all of the way all the race series from Formula One with their virtual series, and IndyCar and NASCAR doing iRacing, and, you know, like Jonathan Trans Am, everybody, all the biggest series on the planet are all doing this. What do you think about the way everybody's reacted to this?
You know, I'm torn, guys, and I don't want to come out, you know, saying anything I shouldn't say, but I think like everybody inside of you, it was like the first time I was in Miami for the very first E-race, and I was, you know, down there, we're on a boat, there was so much hype and everything was wonderful, and the announcer's talking like the Mexican soccer guy, and then it's like, here's the start of the race, and it's like, okay, what happened? Where's the sound, man? So with all of this stuff, I do realize that this is the new space. And I will tell you, it wouldn't be nearly as even a debate if the freaking technology wasn't so good. I mean, I watched the Indy race at Barber a few weeks back and listened to the announcers, and oh my God, I love the guys, I love Diffie and all those guys, but watching the technology was so good, and seeing the guys participating. At the end they say, "Yeah, I won the race. I wish I'd won the real one." But hey, number one, it's keeping us relevant and keeping us in racing, keeping our eyes tuned towards that sport. And I guarantee this little period of time will increase all of the technical side of things. But I think, like everybody, we want to get back to the track.
Yeah, I was watching Indy, and they were showing clips from Simon Pagenaud winning last year, and I was missing it so bad. It has been fun, and I've enjoyed this, and it's but obviously we wanted to get back to normal. I think my favorite part of all of this has been watching the behind the scenes with the drivers themselves, all their Twitch. I won't watch an IndyCar race or whatever without the Twitch feed going at the same time, because I love the way they're trash talking and everything else. That part's been kind of fun.
Yeah. The one guy quit in the middle of the race. The other guy had his daughter unplugged from the TV. I thought it was all pretty interesting things we don't normally see in real racing. But at the same token, again, I mean, taking, I always say proverbial, making a little chicken salad out of chicken, and here we are, on a Saturday or a Sunday, still got our eyes glued to the TV or to your screen. And again, I think that big hats off to the technology, how well it's come along. I was never a big fan. Like Le Mans was the first time in 2002 that I ever used any type of, simulator. It was so archaic back then that, I was just trying to learn where on the Mulsanne Strait where the Chinese restaurant was and know where my break points were. But now it's like unbelievable. So they're dialing in suspension and stuff. And I love hearing the announcers. They're so into it. They're so professional. And but I'm ready to get back. I know we're talking about hoping the SRO first race for us is back at VIR in June. So far, fingers crossed, it's still on the calendar. So we hope we're going to be there.
Kevin, are any of your drivers participating in any of the esports racing?
They are. Both Derek DeBoer are my friend and co-driver and pro driver up in Oregon, is on his simulator all the time. And of course, Spencer Pumpelly, who you mentioned. Spencer's funny because he is one of the, baddest ass GT pilots on the planet, but does not have a sim at home. So it's a little bit of a disadvantage. My wife the other day was, to keep us busy. We're still super busy. And I said, I am not going to get into that unless I could commit to it. Cause it's like saying, I'm going to go jump back in the pro circuit. You better be all in or you're just going to get waxed. So I will watch from the sideline on this one, but yes, a couple of our drivers are. And our new guy and friend Craig Lyons down in Southern California, he's been sticking his toe in the water too, along with his coach Robert Orcutt.
Kevin, I got to ask you, you've got your finger on the pulse pretty much of North American racing. How do you see our return, and what will be the pitfalls? We hear that NASCAR are trying to come back in May. They opened Utah yesterday, the kart circuit at Utah, with social distancing, and that's not a very busy track, but they've opened it up for track rentals and so on. How do you see the rollout, and who do you think could suffer?
Yeah, thanks. It's funny because like my job is to navigate, steer the ship, and I'm usually pretty good about seeing that stuff, and got a great team with me that helps with all the ops. And it's one of the first times ever these last few weeks that I've almost been a little fuzzy about what do I think is really going to happen. And I'm actually a little more set now. We see how hard the public in general is pushing forward to get back out there and do things, even at risk. And I think that's a risk reward scenario. I think that from the sports car side, for sure, I can say that these races will start to happen. They'll start to happen with probably no fans. They will do our best within the paddock that everyone will practice their social distancing. But I think the main thing is getting it back on the track, getting the television coverage, getting the audio coverage, whatever they're going to do. And then maybe one by one, they might start allowing fans to the event, even if the days of NASCAR when they used to put little paint markers on the seats or remove some stands, now they might make people sit every other seat or limit certain sections of the grandstands. I mean, we were in the middle of practice at St. Petersburg on Friday, that March day when we were called black flag, and I thought someone had crashed, and they said, nope, the race is canceled. We're like, what? 160 teams from IndyCar to sports car, 3,000 staff. I just feel really bad. I remember the turkey leg vendor lady, she puts her whole year into that. She's got her freezer behind her with all the turkey legs, and her people are ready to go. And it was like, nope, you got to get out of here in the next 4 hours. I think we're going to come back. I think we're going to start coming back hopefully in June. And I think they'll start feathering things in because everybody wants to get back to business.
Kevin, I was asked this week by one of the listeners about, it's one thing to put on a race with no spectators or limited spectators, but there's a lot of logistics for you as a team owner to make happen in getting your teams there. How are you going to get the teams there? Are you going to, still put them on an airline? Are you going to put everybody in a bus and go together? What are your preliminary thoughts around that?
Yeah, thanks. And I do have some. We have been selectively having some people have to fly within our organization, and we've been really careful about trying to keep people, A, on nonstops, B, find low capacity, low load flights. And now that I see the airlines are finally doing what I think makes all sorts of sense, is if you're going to be in a plane in close quarters, guys, you're going to have to wear a mask until we figure out what the heck's going on. I'm all for that. So we would put our guys on the flight. I like to be the first one to say I will not put anybody on the team in a position that I would not do. And so would I fly on that flight? The answer is yes. Would I try to avoid the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport? Yes, if possible. But if you did, make the change quick. I would give everybody, we had our little supply done for the team where everyone has their mask or their sanitize or whatever, and try to, tell them, you guys be careful and just give your, heads up, situational awareness for sure on the travel side. And then you're right. I mean, for those people that don't know, for the listeners who love watching, and your viewers who love watching racing, the behind the scenes logistics, not only from the individual teams, especially if you're running multiple cars and the drivers and their group, but the track itself, logistics are incredible around racing. I love logistics. I love the complexity of it. But yeah, getting one big, massive 53-foot semi packed full to the brim with wheels, tires, carts, tools, and pit boxes, and 2 cars upstairs, 2,900 miles to VIR to unload and have every one of the crew guys show up at exactly 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning. That's logistics. And we've been doing it for 27 years.
Well, hey, I want to talk wine because I
Yes.
was expecting some wine to hit my doorstep today so we could do a virtual wine tasting. Tell us how that works.
Yeah, no problem. I'll be glad to send it off, guys. As soon as we're done, give me some addresses. No, when I leaned in so hard, seeing where we were going and having a chance that, people don't usually get. The wine business is big. And if you can get past the point of where you're not, the old joke, I didn't make a small fortune in. Well, the funny is, the only 2 things I've ever heard that used for is either in racing or in the wine business. I'm like, wait, I'm the idiot in both of these things. So we've had to figure out how to make it work. And but there's a big end game on the wine side, not just financially, but oh my gosh, when we take our wonderful world of motorsports and of all the Jonathan we met and the high end stuff we were doing around that other brand, and at an event, at a big dealership, doing a wine dinner or and that network of people that come to the race and they're your VIP guests, they're sponsors, and they sit on the pit box and have just a wonderful time. And then you got this world over here spinning of the winery and wine dinners and entertainment. And as those 2 circles start to combine, it was like a big aha moment for me going, you know what? We got a tiger by the tail here. So let's make sure we activate around this. And we did. And we not only got our project approved in Petaluma, which we're building and starting here next month, but launch, Adobe Road's been going for 17 years, but the launch of our new brand called the Racing Series. And oh my gosh, I knew it was going to be good, but we underestimated what was going to happen. We made 4 California red blends. First and foremost, super high quality. Again, like I joked, living by the stopwatch. We're not going to put something together where they're going to say, oh, great story, but the wines weren't so good. The wines were excellent, got great scores in them. We worked really hard on the different styles of the blends. But we went kind of all in on new packaging technology. I love it, like in an Apple-esque type stuff where you open the box and go, oh my gosh. So we had 4 wines. One's called Red Line, and it's got a little silver tachometer on the front, a metal tack with a red needle. And as you tip the bottle to the left, actually go get one for you here. Hey,
no, we're looking at it on the website now.
Oh, okay. We got when you tip it to the left, the needle tips into the red line. The next one, which got a
That's
lot of the good PR for us, was called Shift. And we took a vintage gated Ferrari shifter from the late 60s, early 70s, and had a really neat company build the individual piece. It was too large for the adhesive technology we had available, so we had to go outside the box on that with 3M stuff. And then we put a little plastic shifter on the top of it too with a little 5-speed. You know, all the old guys, save the H pattern. Oh my God, people loved it. And the wine got a 93 from Parker. And it's just got, I was a really great media tour in New York, and I was just about to leave. And they said, no, tomorrow morning you're on Fox Business, Mornings with Maria. And I'm like, what? And sure,
Wow.
next morning, they're up holding the shift bottle, and Maria Bartiromo's there asking questions, and Dagan and the whole team. So it was really funny. And then we made one called the 24, and it was a GSM Grenache Syrah Mourvedre blend. Really neat shaped bottle. But I did one of the last few years in the old days. I won a gold Rolex she'd win for the overall victory, and a part of it was kind of double entendre, is the struggle of the endurance race, and also the struggle of crafting this style of a blend and delicious wine. And then the final one was the Apex. And we're having a little bit of fun with some of the wine and the marketing, where Apex for me is the Apex of the corner, and has a little metal label on it with the metal gators, as you're driving the car up on the gators. But for Garrett, his is the Apex, my winemaker, the Apex. So we're doing a little video right now we're trying to use where as soon as you hit the QR code, boom, it flashes on the screen, and you're live in the cockpit with me driving down to the Apex, and the next thing it switches around, and there's our winemaker being very stoic in the winery saying, and this is the apex of technology with all of the new top wines we use here. So we're having a ball with it, but it just really took off for us.
Yeah, well, yeah, it looks awesome, man. I love the shifter, and I love the tachometer. That's really cool. Well,
Yeah,
well,
I've
Kevin,
got the stopper here. It's pretty cool.
do you?
I got one in
Okay.
Sonoma. Yeah, I love it.
We
Next
are out
time
of time.
we
I
gotta
wanted to
have
say
a
one
wine
thing.
dinner
You
with
out of
Kevin.
time?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, the virtual tastings, I went a little long. Get me
Yeah,
talk about the wine and racing. I keep going, but the virtual tastings, we're trying to reinvent ourselves and be relevant and sell some wine, and a win-win. People are sitting at home, and oh my gosh, again, underestimated. A lot of the virtual tastings that some of the wineries are doing are a one-way conversation. It's a Facebook Live or Instagram, and there's a guy, some rep talking about Chardonnay for 45 minutes. It might have been cool in the beginning, but it's more about entertainment now. You're going to give someone an hour on Zoom, have fun, ham it up. I mean, Garrett and I go back and forth like Johnny Carson, Ed McMahon on these wines, and talk about stories and the idea behind the crafting of it. And maybe we did one a couple of weeks ago where we did our tip of the hat to the Long Beach Grand Prix. So Jim McKaylee and the president came on and said a few words. Greg Gill from the SRO came on and said a few words. And then Spencer put up an in-car hot lap to show everyone on and talked everybody through it. And everybody loved it, So we're finding new ways to make the virtual conferences even better, and we're real busy with it.
Well, that's
it's a
cool.
great concept.
Well, Kevin Buckler, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. And we'll share your wine website, theracersgroup.com, and all those. And we appreciate it. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, guys. Hope to see y'all back in the track soon. All right.
Yeah,
Likewise.
all
Thanks,
of us.
Kevin. I'll be in
Cheers.
touch.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. All right,
Thanks,
we're gonna go straight to a break. You're listening to Speed City. We're live in Austin, Texas, and we'll be back after these quick messages.
Roger Hayden, Factory Yoshimura Suzuki. This is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back to the show. I want to talk first off about in the iRacing world, in the virtual world, I want to talk IndyCar iRacing, because that was on Saturday, and it was actually really, really good iRacing, good virtual racing. And I mentioned it earlier in the show, but the way I watched it was I flip on the IndyCar race, and then I choose Connor Daly. He had kind of a group chat going on, but watch it on his Twitch feed and get his take while he's driving. And I thought that was a really, I like doing it that way. But the race itself was great racing. Jonathan, I know you saw it too. What'd you think?
Yeah, you picked the right horse with Connor coming from the back and finishing second. It was dramatic. And I mean, I think in a weird way, oval racing, that's why I think I've been so enthralled by the NASCAR too. Oval racing is really good for sim because it's as close to the real thing and you're on board a lot of the time. And you really get to see the movement of the cars. And you get to see also when you see them on their Discord, you get to see them actually, the concentration on their faces. And it's pretty intense. And it got intense. And it was great to see Lando Norris taking on the 500. And I heard Zach Brown being interviewed saying that Lando wants to go and do the 500 before his career is over. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, a hell of a finish. Really close. But I think Simon Pagenaud was not happy about not getting back-to-back Indy 500 wins, so he took Lando out.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I'm sure if we could see McLaren perform like those esports cars, it'd really put on a good race.
Yeah, they're doing really well in cyberspace.
Yeah, at one point they were 1, 2, 3 with the McLaren cars.
I know, it's nuts, isn't it?
Well,
I mean, it takes some real skill to be able to do a race for 175 laps like that with 33 cars that close. I mean, you can see there was an accident we just saw there. It was early on, Alex Palau going out. But, you know, that was a touch, and that was all it was. Now, if that had happened in real life, it would be a bit more dramatic, but it just shows you how realistic it is.
Yeah, well, you said it, John. The end of the race was amazing. With so it was a few hundred feet to go. Santino drove straight into who was it? Was one of the McLaren cars, right? With about 300 feet to go, and then McLaughlin and Connor Daly both went through with. I mean,
McLaughlin's on the inside in the red and white, and then the two McLaren cars are right there with him, and then he gets spun around. Sorry, not McLaughlin. Excuse me. That was Rahal. Yeah,
but the point is that so McLaughlin wins the race. And McLaughlin wins the race, but Connor Daly comes in second, and I think Santino came in third, upside down, or at least spinning. And but it was great racing. And but one of the other stories was, you mentioned it, where Pagenaud and ran straight into Lando Norris, who'd actually been having a great race. Yeah. And he apparently admitted that he was not necessarily trying to run into him, but he was trying, in his words, he was trying to slow him down a little bit. And if the producer has it ready,
watch this. Okay, now watch. Ahead of what we're looking at right now, that's the moment there. They come together. You see Pagenaud move across the track like that, and it was a little bit of a naughty move, but there you go. All plays into McLaughlin's hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got to talk to Scott McLaughlin when he came here to COTA for testing. I think it was like January, something like that, back when you could go to a racetrack. And if the producer has it ready, we've got a clip of Lando Norris's Twitch where he talks about this exact incident. In fact, he was pretty convinced that Simon Pagenaud. Did you say you ready or not ready, producer? Not ready. All right. Well, we're going to catch that after the break then. But yeah, he was pretty upset with Simon Pagenaud because, he and his spotter, Simon Pagenaud's spotter, were both saying things like, that they basically intimated that he was doing it on purpose. It was really, really pretty kind of amazing that Pagenaud would say that or come close to it, fully admitting it.
Well, I thought it was I thought he was going to start out just in trying to apply pressure and make him nervous, as they would in a real race. And then I wonder if he just didn't get overindulgent in it, because applying some pressure and making them nervous is all part of the game every day at a racetrack.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting, I'm learning, as you say, I did the E-Trans Am Championship today, and when we do our driver briefing, one of the things that the game people say is, be more aware, imagine yourself in a bubble, because when you're racing in real life, you have a much better sense of depth and perception of distance. Whereas in a game, you're really not 100% sure just how close you are. And I think that's partly why you do see some bigger wrecks and some mistakes that wouldn't be normal in real life. And that was a good example of that. But spatial awareness is probably the hardest part, I think, of e-racing.
Yeah, those are both really good points, guys. Because Les, like you're saying, it's part of racing to move around the track a little bit. And Jonathan, yeah, absolutely, it's not the same as racing, and there's nuances that you're not going to feel in iRacing. So, all right, hey guys, let's go ahead and take our next break. We got to get this quick break in at the bottom of the hour. You're listening to Speed City. We're live in Austin, Texas. Back after these messages.
Hi, this is Magnus Walker. Greetings from downtown LA, and thanks for tuning in to Speed City. Keep Austin weird and get out and drive. Pedal to the metal.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
I got to get out this weekend, guys, a little bit off the sofa. I was actually working on cars this weekend with my son. I changed every filter in my car, oil, cabin filter, air filter, you name it, did the oil change. And on my son's little Boxster, we did the same thing, but got to get out and enjoy some car time, even if it's not at the racetrack. But hey, I want to thank Andy P. He just tweeted at us. He was listening to what we're saying about IndyCar, and he said, I thought Saturday was a great opportunity for IndyCar to be center stage. The racing was great, all until the last 2 laps or so. The shenanigans at the end are unfortunately not a good look. It's either serious or it's not. And it was serious, all for but 2 laps. And it's funny how we're kind of caught in this, between this, is it fun or is it real? Because I know that all the drivers talk about it being a lot of fun. And like Connor Daly, like I said, I was listening to his Twitch during the race, and he was all having fun when he was at the back. But as he moved up the grid, he got less animated. And he's still a lot of fun no matter what, but he took it more and more serious as he got closer to the front. When he got in the top 10, then he was not chatting on the microphones as much. So
John,
that's a good point.
Yeah, I will say this, having done the Trans Am today and having watched most of the other output, one thing I will say that the serious side of it is we finally got our custom liveries today. So everybody was able to post their car and have it designed with their logos on and with their sponsors on. And, we're sponsored by Pirelli, just as Formula One is. And everybody had a custom livery, and the point is, we haven't been racing for 2 months, and these were all new sponsors for the 2020 season. So we are still able to show off these new sponsors that mean a lot and they paid a lot to be on the cars of these people. So when we do go racing, they will get some exposure properly. But they are getting good exposure now, even on these e-games, because it's the realisticness of it, and like even the hoardings around the track are really well done. I mean, look at an advert for Coda that was last week from Indy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, thinking about the insight we get from watching Twitch, I think Charles Leclerc is a good example. Today, watching the virtual race in Formula One, he was a little more animated than he normally is, but he was, because he'll talk about the racing and what's going on during the race just a little bit. And I just wonder, would we ever get something like this in real racing? I mean, I know we've had, obviously team radio and things like that. What do you guys think about that?
I would love it. I would absolutely love it. I love, especially when things really got emotional in the cars. I'd love to hear what one says to another, whoever it is. I think that would add to it. We all kind of try to temper things, but we know inside that helmet they're screaming. And so I'd like to hear that.
True.
What do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed seeing the driver's concentration, and also seeing, especially in Lando's case with his Twitch, his feet. I was fascinated to watch the Australian Grand Prix, just basically keeping an eye on how he played with both feet with the throttle, and then he would put the brake on, and you could see him feathering him, working, which is obviously what he does with his real world. And obviously without his boots on, we could see it. Now, you're not going to get that shot in a Formula One car. So I found it fascinating.
Yeah. And like you said, Les, you talk about them getting animated, but also what surprised me, and I knew there's lots of trash talk, right? But there's a pretty high level of trash talk between these guys. I mean, it's funny listening to Conor Daly, because he had always in his Twitch feed, he'll have Alexander Rossi, and he had a Hinch last week. So all those guys, and they kind of get into that gang mentality. Last week they were ganging up on Santino. So it's really fascinating. And I'm with you, Les. I would love it. And I know there's so many complex parts to that equation, everything from sponsors to team information and all that. But I would love it.
Here's a business model. IndyCar, Formula One, everybody. How about you can subscribe to a channel and hear that? Upcharge it a little bit. I could see paying for that right quick to hear the real talk.
Well, actually, I am paying for it because I signed up on Twitch for Conor Daly. I subscribed, where you pay like $5 a month, and then you can interact more. And so, yeah, there's so many different ways to monetize it too. And I noticed,
in the race, though. Let's do it in the race.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I noticed that. By the way, and you remember we were talking about how Lando had huge numbers, people watching, streaming on his Twitch channel. Now Leclerc's kind of taken over. Now that he's jumped in and done so well, his Twitch channel is huge now. He's getting, 50,000 concurrent Twitch viewers. And those are big numbers, guys. Those are big, you know how big the gaming world is. And he's moving the needle a little bit. Are moving the needle a little bit in that world, so that's a big deal. But hey, let's talk about the first.
Wait a minute, John. No. Mr. Spreadsheet. So $5 a month, 50,000 viewers. There's $250,000 right there for playing on games.
Yeah, but now all those weren't subscribers list. That's the difference. They're viewers, but not all subscribers. In fact, I don't know how many. It was a fraction of that, so it's not quite that much money. So, yeah. Good point, but
it can be. It sounds like.
All right, hey, let's talk about the Formula One Virtual Grand Prix, Interlagos, and of course they do it. What was it, about an hour? Because it's about a 50% race length, so a little less than an hour. And did you guys notice at the beginning of the race, once again, Lando Norris could not get going, but turns out this was his own fault. He hit the spectate button instead of the race button, and so I was like, oh, come on. But he did get going. He missed qualifying, so he started way in the back, but he got going. And but what do you guys think of the virtual today?
I'm having no friends on cyberspace by saying this, but the one thing I would say that is not true of Trans Am, which is what I've been doing, but is true of Formula One, is I watch the e-racing Formula One race before I watch the Formula One race, i.e. the games.
Right.
And I have to say, when I don't know anybody's name or anybody's backstory or anything about them, I mean, the commentators do a good job and the hosts do a good job of trying to fill you in. But if you're not in that world and you don't know the meaning of these guys, you've got to have backstory. It's always the same in sport. Without a story, it's just two people fighting. When you know it's Ali versus Foreman, when you know it's Michael Jordan up against Scottie Pippen, I know they play on the same team. You know what I mean?
Right.
But my point is, you know their backstory, and I think I got immersed once I was watching the Formula One drivers, but not with the gamers.
You know what, Jonathan? I did the same thing. I started watching that one, and I ended up not watching that one because I didn't know all the gamers and all the streamers.
Well, with Trans Am, we've made sure that it's only Trans Am or related to. Like, we've got a couple of ringers, we've got a couple of 17-year-olds who we're calling future Trans Am, but they're the son or the grandson of a former Trans Am star. So we've got Greg Pickett's grandson, and we've got Dylan Archer as well. And so that's kind of cool. But the rest are all actual bona fide drivers. And then you've got the personal stories.
Yeah. What are you going to say, Les?
No, I'm with you on that. I lost interest in exactly what you said. I didn't know who that was. What's their backstory? Do a quick, Wikipedia search to find out who this guy is. Some of them are well-founded on their way up. Some are not, but I know that. And, I took the initiative to search for some of them to find out who they are, but I don't see that happening. Leclerc and Albon put on a great show today. Great racing.
Mm-hmm. Hey, speaking of Albon, what do you guys think about this? I was thinking about this during the virtual race, is that, he's such a quiet, kind of unassuming guy, right? And I know he has to be confident. He's a Formula One driver. But what about how well he's doing against the superstar of Formula One? How he's as fast, every bit as fast as Charles Leclerc in this virtual racing, if not faster. So he won today, right? What do you think about this adding to his confidence level? Like George Russell also doing well. But what do you think about this, particularly Albon? What do y'all think?
Well, it's a level playing field, isn't it? And I mean, in some ways, sort of personally, I mean, can you imagine if you were at the Dutch Grand Prix today? George Russell will be having a rotten day because he's in a Williams and he's got no chance of being competitive. Whereas today, it's like, let me show you what I can do.
Yeah.
And I think that's true of Albon.
Well, and I just mean, do you think that will help him in once real racing starts? I mean, you know how much motor racing is so much about confidence.
It's all in the
head.
head.
I could say so. I could say it will probably help him, but unfortunately, he'll be back in the same car he was in before and everybody else. Yeah, it's great, but I've got 3 or 4 wheels on the ground. And so, I think it'll help. I'm not sure how much of that confidence is going to translate when you get the real feel of the car not being as fast and not responding as you imagined it would and as you were perceiving it would strictly from a visual in the e-world. And so Albon, I mean, I like Albon a lot. As a person, as a racer, he's always very gracious, humble, and friendly around. But I just don't know if that's going to come back to the track with him, what we saw today.
Yeah, I mean, he was great when we got to hang out with him here in Austin at COTA last year. He was, just like you're saying, he was friendly and all of that. But also today, obviously Albon won the race. Leclerc came in second, and Russell came in second because the 3-second time penalty that Leclerc had. So yeah, but what I was noticing today was that on Twitch, on Leclerc's account, Albon and Leclerc were really buddying up. In fact, they were calling each other Alexander and Charlie, and so in fact, did you see the point where when Leclerc made a mistake and pushed Alexander really wide, he said, "Oh, sorry, mate," and he let him go through. I mean, they must have, I don't know how many times they swapped during the race. Don't you wish we had that many passes during a real Formula One race these days? but they were real buddy, and I did notice that Leclerc was giving George Russell a bunch of respect. He was saying, "Hey, he's coming up behind us." This was early in the race. He said he's going to catch us, and sure enough, he did. But overall, I thought I enjoyed it. It's not like real racing, but I definitely enjoyed it. And the guys like Albon at the end said he was shaking with nervousness afterwards. He said more so than in a real race, even, which I thought was pretty incredible. But hey, guys, we need to take another break. But when we come back, Les, we're going to talk about the interview you did when you went to Zandvoort. And we've got some clips from that interview that we did last year, but we thought we'd pull that out for this year. So stick with us through the break. You're listening to Speed City. We'll be back after 2 minutes of messages.
Hi, this is Jay Leno from JayLenosGarage.com, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back to the show. We want to talk about the Zandvoort Formula One track. And Les, why don't you give us a little intro to Jan Lammers? And you met him last year, and talk about
the
these
reason why we're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So, a new track on the Formula One calendar is Zandvoort. Zandvoort is about 40 minutes towards the coast from Amsterdam. It is a gorgeous track. You'll hear some more details about it. It is on sand dunes, truly on sand dunes, a quarter mile from the beach. After I spent my day at the track and walked over to the beach, sat down, had a cold one, and just a great historic location there. Jan Lammers, though, big in the world of motorsports for that region, has been racing since his teenage years, Le Mans winner, so many other genres there. And so he's actually become just a great proponent, a great ambassador for the Zandvoort circuit. So, I hope y'all enjoy this. It's a great education as to who he is.
Yeah, so let's do this intro for him.
Well, yeah, I can't think of a better ambassador for the place. This is your hometown, and quite honestly, you're a veteran of the sport. Not only Formula One, but especially the Le Mans, 24-hour Le Mans. Win of '88.
Yeah, privileged boy. So, I grew up here downtown in Zandvoort. Was born about 200 yards from the beach, in the area where usually they package the fish, before transport. When I was 12, I got introduced to, I got involved with the Skids Control School here. That school was owned by Rob Slotemaker, and Rob Slotemaker is an international racing driver of his days. And he got most famous later when he did all the stunts, all the spinning in the movie Le Mans for Steve McQueen. So that led to my first introduction into Le Mans when I was 14. I was there for the first time. And then to win it 18 years later was of course an enormous total experience. But so when I was 12, I started here on the Skid Control School, just making all my little spins. And when I was 16, I did my first race here, won the first race and the championship. And yeah, from there on, it just took off. So my first international score was the European Formula 3 Championship. And then in '79 I got in Formula One with an American team, Shadow.
There you go, Shadow, the ominous black Shadow.
The Black Shadow from Don Nichols, you know, he
right.
looked like the man on the Sandeman bottle, you know, the whiskey. Yeah, so that was from Formula 3 to Formula 1 was I'm not sure if it's a bigger step now than in those days, but yeah, and that was in the days where we say here that sex was still safe and motor racing dangerous. You know that quote, but that was very much the thing. So when I started, it was the time where people like James Hunt and Niki Lauda and Mario Andretti were already considering retiring, I presume.
Right.
But great days, great days.
Yeah, and the reason we're talking about this obviously right now is this would have been the race for this weekend in Formula One had we not had all the delays. But Les, the next clip you did was talking about getting on the calendar, right?
You bet. It's each stop on the Formula One calendar comes into the play in a different way, whether it is private funds, government funds, and also, we're still dealing with the new way of business, transitioning from the Bernie era into Liberty Media. And so Jan tells me the story of how they got here. Fantastic. Well, you've got to be excited. What did it take for you to get on the calendar with this track?
Well, we got to be very grateful to our prince, Prince Bernhard of Orange, and we used to have the Queen and the Prince, Queen Juliana and Prince Bernhard. Prince Bernhard is his granddad, and this is Prince Bernhard Jr. He's a very passionate racing driver, and he's a big businessman, but in his spare time he loves to race cars, and I raced together with him, so we became good friends. Bernhard just convinced his partners to take over the racetrack. I think that was 2015, like 4 years ago. Then after they obtained the track, they started on a lobby from his ambition to get the Dutch Grand Prix back. So it seemed crazy in the beginning, and people sort of spoke about him as if he was crazy to think that. But it reminds me of some quotes that Steve Jobs has made in the past, that those that are crazy enough that they think that they can change the world are often the ones that actually do. Well, this is another example, because I think Bernhard just not only convinced his partners and everybody else that he needed to get this on the calendar. So first we had, in October last year, we had a verbal agreement subject to, of course, another 6 months where we could investigate if it was feasible. Well, we got that through that period, and now we have a wonderful balance between a lot of Dutch family-owned companies that sponsor the event. So it's nice. We've got a nice spreading of organization and financing. Enough reasons to look forward to another great year.
That's fascinating. I love the idea that, and Les, what was the biggest thing was that the Max Verstappen, wasn't Max there the day before you were there?
No, we were actually there at the same time. It was the Jumbo Exhibition Speed Day there. It included quite an array of events going on all on one day, including the Red Bull cars there. Max got out and ran some hot laps. Was fantastic to see it. The crowd erupted when he pulled out of the garage, did a couple of rev blips, and like I said, the audience exploded right then. He got out, got things warmed up, and threw a couple of hot laps that just really got everybody excited. Now, the configuration of the track at that time, this is right at 1 year ago that I was there before I made it to Monaco, is a bit different than what is there right now. Since that time, they have added in a banked curve for the last curve of the track, whose degree of angle is somewhere in between the Indy 500 and the, I believe it's Daytona. So very serious banking, of which Formula One has not been on that level of banking before. But there's a lot of things that make this track special. And so he goes into explaining a bit more of that.
Right.
Is there a track that you can relate it to currently on the calendar for that start? That's always the critical part, getting through that first turn. It appears to go slightly down, and then it's banked for a right turn.
I think in terms of distance to the first corner, it probably has a resemblance with Spa-Francorchamps, because there also the start line in the first corner is very close. So that's interesting, but it makes for great racing. We're going to make a few changes. We've got a few changes already planned, but I think they will be maybe even corrected a little bit more to make sure that we do the maximum to enhance overtaking, of course.
What's an example of a couple of those?
First of all, the things that are changed, just in a nutshell, that's the start-finish line, as you said, with the objective that the people on the main grandstand can see the whole field. So that's one. Then turn number 2, called the Gerlach bocht. Turn number 2 will be wider on the exit, but that's purely for the safety, so a wider runoff. Then turn number 3 or 4, the left-hand hairpin before you go up the hill, the Hugenholzbocht. That will be wider on the inside, so the actual track will be wider. That will promote a bigger flow, so we go faster up the hill. And then it's the Audi S chicane, or the Hans Ernst bocht as they call it. That will also be wider to make sure that we have a better flow. Then the corner onto the straight will be banked, I think like 17 degrees, to make sure that with the DRS open you can still take it flat. And that is to help the cars being able, if the DRS is open there, they might be able to overtake. But I spoke to the father of Max Verstappen this morning, Jos. He had a few small changes, or he had a few ideas that would require small additions to that. That would also help the overtaking, and I take his advice very seriously, because he knows about the business more than pretty much everybody.
You know, I think the racing is going to be excellent. Those changes sound like exactly what's needed. What's something else? What's going to make people just want to come to this race in 2020?
Well, first of all, you jump in the train and within half an hour you are in the center of Amsterdam, and I consider Amsterdam the Las Vegas from Europe, so whatever happens in Amsterdam stays in Amsterdam. So that's pretty, particularly for American and Canadian people. To be in Amsterdam is like stunning. If you've never been to Europe,
it is.
And you go into Amsterdam, you can't believe what's happening there. We're a very open and very free country, of course, and I think you sense that when you are in Amsterdam.
Friendly too.
Yeah, I think so. I like Dutch people. It's not. I'm not talking about myself. I can only hope that that's the case. But in general, if I see people respond to things, and in general how they're perceived, I think that we believe in friendliness, and you'd like to communicate with people in a way that you like them to respond to you, more or less. So no, it's a nice, no nonsense kind of people. Amsterdam is great. When you get here to Zandvoort, it's pretty unique also, because there's like 2 miles along the coast where there is some I think every 100 or 200 yards you have a different pavilion, like one of those beach pavilions. And if you want to go in terms of theme of the little restaurants, what they are, you can go down under, you can go to Ibiza, you can go to Jamaica. There's all different styles.
Very international.
It's very international. Some of them don't even have a Dutch menu, just English. So it's lovely. It's very trendy, and Zandvoort has sort of moved up a little bit in terms of I'm not sure if it's glamour, but in terms of trend, it's a very trendy town.
I don't know about you guys, but hearing those race cars in the background, that makes me virtual's fun, but yeah. All right, guys.
Also, the prospect of that race, that would have been that's going to be so cool when it happens.
I know. All right, well, we are out of time, everybody. Thanks for Kevin Buckler for coming on. Hey, everybody, check us out on. I was just looking at all the shows we've done recently. We've had all these amazing people: Brian Redmond and we've had Connor Daly and the head of F1's Esports, Gunther Steiner. Go check out all our shows and tell your friends if you like it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. We'll talk to you next week.
Ciao, y'all.
Happy trails.